Ars Victor is a fast, tense, two-player board game of tactical combat. You command a furious fighting force of the future against a ferocious foe. Let's take a look at the pieces you'll use to play a game of Ars Victor. There are 9 different double-sided map tiles. You'll use these to build a new battlefield at the beginning of each game. They contain forests, cities, and other bits of terrain. Some of these slow you down, others affect combat. There are a dozen different kinds of unit counters. Each counter shows all of a unit's abilities. Not all units are equal. Some are rampaging towers of death, and others are only good as meat shields. Units are placed on top of banner counters to indicate what player they belong to and what suit they are. Each player has their own deck of 24 command cards. You play these cards to move and attack with your units. The purple command tokens are used to track what units you've ordered. Damage tokens show how many hits a unit has taken. Capture points show the crucial pieces of anonymous ground that you need to hold to win. Each side also has a headquarters marker that designates one of your units as a special scoring piece. In Ars Victor, your goal is simple. Be the first player to reduce your enemy's glory to 0. Both players start with a marker on the glory track. You can reduce your opponent's glory by killing their units, destroying their headquarters, and by occupying capture points on the board. Your first mission setup can be tough when you haven't even played a game yet. In the back of the rulebook, you'll find several pre-generated missions. Grab one and jump right in. When you're ready to do your own mission setup, here's what you do. To start the game, one player rolls a blue die for initiative. On a hit, it's their choice to play either red or blue. Otherwise, their opponent chooses. Red is the attacker. They place their units first and take the first move. Blue is the defender and places the first map tile. Each player then secretly buys their army. Building a lean, mean fighting force is a huge part of the fun of Ars Victor. Start with the rosters we've provided in the rulebook, and then develop your own builds. Each unit has a cost, shown in the yellow box in the lower right-hand corner. You have 80 points to spend. You must buy at least 5 units, and you can buy as many units as you like. Here's what the bits on the counter mean. Each unit has a number of hit points and a point cost. Every unit has a close combat attack. Some of them have a ranged attack as well. All units also have 1 or more movement arrows. Green arrows are walk moves, yellow arrows are run moves, and blue arrows are special jump moves. In addition to this, most units have special abilities that give them additional advantages. The quick reference lists the different abilities and what they do. Some special abilities affect a unit's mobility, like insertion, jump, or all-terrain. Other abilities affect a unit's attacks, like indirect fire, aim, or marksman. Special abilities like stand fast, take cover, and bug out have the power to turn a combat disaster into a glorious victory. Choose one of the units you've bought to act as your headquarters. It becomes a special scoring piece that is critical to victory. When both players have finished buying their armies, reveal your units. Then set your markers on the glory track. Have fun and build the army of your dreams. But be careful, your unspent points determine where you start on the glory track. The more points you spend, the bigger the army you have, but the closer you are to losing. After revealing your units, shuffle the map tiles. Blue draws the first one and places it in the center. Both players then alternate placing map tiles to fill out a 3x3 layout. A single capture point goes in the center hex on each map tile in the middle row. Use a capture point that matches the underlying hex. Starting with red, both players place 4 of their units on the board, anywhere in their back 2 rows. You cannot start with your headquarters on the board. Whenever you place a unit on the board, assign it any one of the 4 suits by placing a banner underneath it. The banner you assign is permanent and will determine what cards you can use to activate the unit. If you want units to work together, keep them on the same suit or color. When both players have finished placing their vanguard, mission setup is complete. You'll have something that looks like this. Each player's marker will be on the glory track. All 9 map tiles will be laid out with purple capture points on each of the center row tiles. Each player will have 4 units on the board somewhere on their back 2 rows. The rest of the player's forces will be in their reserves. You'll each start with a hand of 5 command cards. On your turn, follow these steps. Drop your enemy's glory. Play a command card and take command tokens. Spend them to advance and assault with your units. Then draw a replacement command card. Before you do anything else on your turn, bleed your enemy's glory. Knock them down 1 glory for each capture point that you occupy with one of your units. If you're brave enough to have stuck your headquarters on a capture point, knock them down 2 glory. Knock them down 1 more glory if you have your headquarters on the board and they don't. This could be because you've killed their headquarters, or it could just be hiding in their reserves. Next, play a command card from your hand and take command tokens equal to its value. The suit of the command card determines which units you can buy orders for and how much it costs. Units of the same suit have the normal cost. Units of the same color but different suit cost 1 extra command point to order. You cannot give orders to a unit of the opposite color. Now spend those command tokens to use your units to wreak havoc on your foe. There are 2 different orders you can give a unit: advance or assault. An advance order costs 1 command token and lets you move a unit. It can travel 1 hex for each move arrow on the piece. Most of your forces will start off the map hanging out and relaxing in your reserves. You can give any of them an advance order to bring them onto the map. Move them as if they started in a hex just behind your home row. Assign them a banner just like you did with your vanguard. Movement is restricted by a few different things. Units cannot move through other units, friendly or enemy. Units that start or move next to an enemy are engaged and must stop. They can't move until one of them dies or is forced back by combat. Units with the jump ability ignore this restriction. Most terrain has a slow effect. Units that enter a slow hex must stop immediately and cannot move any further that turn. Units with the all-terrain ability ignore slow. Units with the jump ability can ignore the contents of every hex they move through except for the one they land in. If they land in terrain, they have to make a hazard roll. Roll 1 white die for each hit point the unit has left. Each skull causes 1 unavoidable point of damage. Units with the insertion ability have a special way to enter from reserves. Buy 2 advance orders, and the unit you're inserting can be placed next to any unit you already have on the board. However, if you land in any terrain, you must make a hazard roll, just like jump units. An assault order costs 2 command tokens and lets you move and attack. The unit may travel 1 hex for each green walk or blue jump arrow on the piece. Then, it can strike with either a close combat or ranged attack. Close combat attacks are made with blade, fang, and short-range guns. A unit can only use its close combat attack against adjacent enemies. Ranged attacks can strike at foes up to the distance shown on the piece. You can never initiate a ranged attack if you're next to an enemy unit. You can't shoot through blocking hexes or other units, unless the attacking unit has the indirect fire ability. Units with a plus sign in their range have the aim ability. This gives them 1 extra range if they don't move. When you attack, roll 1 or more colored dice to determine the outcome. For a close combat attack, roll the dice shown at the top of the counter. If a defender is in impeding terrain, both sides cut their dice in half. Units with the all-terrain ability are unaffected by impeding terrain and roll their full dice. If you're making a ranged attack, use the dice shown at the bottom of the counter. If you're shooting at a unit in cover, all of your dice turn white. Units with the marksman ability ignore cover. The different colored dice have different strengths. White dice are the weakest. They have 1 weak hit face and 1 push face. Red dice are stronger. They have 1 hit, 1 weak hit, and 1 push face. Blue dice are lethal. They have 3 hit faces and 1 push face. To resolve an attack, follow these basic steps. First, declare the unfortunate victim of your cruel and savage blow. If the victim has the Bug Out special ability, ask your opponent if they want to use it. Next, roll the dice. The different dice faces cause different effects. Each hit, or weak hit, inflicts 1 point of damage. Each push face causes a 1-hex fallback move. Several special abilities affect these results. If your opponent used their Bug Out ability, they are only affected by the POW hit faces. The only downside is they automatically take 2 fallback moves. Units with the Tough ability are harder to kill. It takes 2 weak hits to cause a single point of damage to a tough unit. Victims that have the Stand Fast or Take Cover abilities can change the results after the roll. Stand Fast lets the victim turn a single push into a hit. Take Cover lets them turn a single hit into a push. Each fallback move forces your opponent to move their unit towards its home row into one of the 2 hexes directly behind it. Fallback moves are unaffected by slow terrain or adjacent enemy units. A unit cannot fall back into a hex occupied by another unit, nor can it fall back when it's on its back row. Each fallback that cannot be taken turns into a hit. Always leave your troops a line of retreat. If an attack fails to eliminate or drive away its target, the defender gets a free counterattack. A counterattack is resolved just like a normal attack. When a close combat attack kills an enemy or drives them back, the attacker can immediately follow up and move into the vacated hex. The defender can never follow up. When a unit takes damage, place an orange damage marker on their banner to show how many hit points they've lost. Damage doesn't affect a unit's performance at all. A unit is eliminated when it takes damage equal to its hit points. It is removed from the board and returns to the pile of cardboard from whence it came. Immediately reduce your enemy's glory by the unit's purchase cost. When you've finished issuing orders, you're done. Draw a replacement card from your deck. Continue this process until one of you has been sapped of all glory. Finally, you're ready for your first game of Ars Victor.